In this video, we'll be taking a look at 3 college basketball games happening on December 19, 2025, and providing you with free team picks and total picks for each one of those games, so 6 picks in total. Welcome back to Cash Out Sports. Let's dive right into it. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe and to click the bell icon to get notified as soon as these videos get released, so that you have more time to plan out your bets as we provide these videos on a daily basis. I can guarantee that you'll have all the important information that you'll need on these 3 college basketball games after fully watching this video. One more thing before we start: if you would like to gain access to our best exclusive sports picks to take your journey to the next level, then check out our Patreon in the link down below, where we offer our best single picks, parlay picks, and much more. Now let's get started. Seton Hall versus Providence. Seton Hall walks into Providence like the guest who has finally figured out where you keep the good snacks in the kitchen, and that matters a lot against a favorite that is still trying to decide what kind of team it wants to be this season. A year ago, the Pirates were stuck in a 7-win nightmare, but this version has flipped the story, turning into a tough, confident group that hangs its hat on defense and old-school toughness rather than flash. They are not pretty in a Sports Center top 10 way. They are annoying in a why is nothing open way. And that is exactly what you want when you are catching points on the road. Possessions slow down, drives get bumped off their line, cutters get rerouted, and by the second media timeout, you can almost see opponents getting tired of working through a full-length defensive possession again and again. Even with a guard already lost for the season and some size in the front court either sidelined or limited, the structure has held together, which says a lot about how stable the system and the culture are rather than any one name on the roster. On the other side, you get Providence, which is basically the Big East's live fireworks stand right now. All bright colors and loud noise. A team that loves pace, early offense, and tough jumpers off the bounce. And that just played a double overtime track meet where both sides flew past the century mark. The Friars are explosive, especially at home, but they are also comfortable living in chaos, and chaos tends to reward the side that can keep getting stops when whistles tighten and the game gets choppy. When the market hangs a number that makes Providence about a one-possession favorite in their own building, you are really being asked whether you trust the volatile home offense or the steadier visiting defense over 40 minutes. And everything about how these two profiles fit together quietly tilts toward the road dog being the more trustworthy side against the number. As our first pick for this matchup, the Seton Hall Pirates to cover the spread as underdogs is our full game side pick. The Friars score in bunches, they play fast, and they are not shy about launching early in the clock, which can make even a normal game feel like it is running on fast forward. They also send the score climbing in quieter ways, like piling up trips to the free throw line and leaving just enough gaps on defense that opponents do not need to be perfect to keep up. That is where Seton Hall becomes more than just the grumpy defensive team in this story. This Pirates group is not last year's rock fight machine. They have already shown they can put up solid numbers of their own when they get stops, rip the ball off the glass, and turn that into transition or quick strike chances, as we saw in that comfortable rivalry win where they put Rutgers away with a mix of pressure and timely scoring. Big East openers in a loud building tend to come with a little extra adrenaline. The pace usually spikes for at least a stretch, and a team like Providence that loves to push the ball will gladly invite more possessions. Add in the very real possibility of a whistle-heavy second half, with free throws stacking up and then the usual late-game fouling if the margin is tight, and you suddenly have a lot of different paths for both teams to land in a combined score that sits above what the books are asking here. It might not be a pure track meet from the opening tip, but it has plenty of ways to turn into a game where the scoreboard operator is getting a workout. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. Villanova versus Wisconsin. Fiserv Forum on a Friday night sounds neutral on paper, but you and I both know this is going to feel a lot more like a Wisconsin crowd than a coin flip setting. The Milwaukee Hoops Showdown is branded as a doubleheader neutral event, sure, yet the building sits in the Badgers' backyard, and Wisconsin fans treat trips to Milwaukee like a quick work commute with better snacks. That tilt in the stands matters. It bleeds into energy, into how comfortable guys are with sight lines, and it quietly nudges the pressure toward the team in the slightly fancier metrics column, rather than the one with most of the jerseys in the seats. Wisconsin rolls in at 7-3, and that record barely captures how they have handled similar opponents. They already smoked 2 Big East teams, blowing out Providence on a neutral floor and running Marquette off their own NBA court, which is a pretty loud message about how they handle these marquee showcase games. This is not the slow, grind-you-into-paste Badgers stereotype that people still cling to out of habit. They play quicker, they push when they see daylight, and they are comfortable putting up numbers instead of playing to win by 3 in a 40-possession rock fight. The big thing, though, is not just pace, it is how they score when things tighten. They shoot free throws well, they take care of the ball, and those two traits are like having a good accountant in March, boring but incredibly valuable. When you back a favorite laying only a few points, you want a team that will not panic when Villanova inevitably makes a run, and Wisconsin's style checks that box. On the other side, Villanova's season profile is the shinier one. The Wildcats have the cleaner analytics sheet. They sit a little higher in the net rating, in KenPom, in Torvik, all that alphabet soup that powers half of college basketball Twitter. They are 8-2 and fresh off a statement win over Pittsburgh, which was the kind of performance that makes you double-check whether the market has them a tick undervalued. They bring a physically serious front court, a deep, guard-heavy rotation, and a coach in his first season at the helm who is very clearly trying to build a group that can bully teams on the glass and in the half court. At the same time, there have been real wobble moments. They got beaten up on the boards at Michigan, then again had sequences where rebounding looked shaky against Pitt, and that is not the flaw you want to carry into a game against a Badgers team that loves to win the hidden battles, squeeze extra possessions, and live at the stripe. Add in that Villanova is still figuring out its exact pecking order with so many new contributors, while Wisconsin already knows exactly who it is and how it wants to close games, and you get a matchup where the small favorite has more built-in paths to stretching a one-possession edge into something that covers. As our first pick for this matchup, the Wisconsin Badgers to cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. This total number sitting in the low 150s is not there by accident. Odds makers did their homework here. If you take the raw scoring profiles from the season to this point, Wisconsin is averaging in the mid-80s on offense while giving up mid-70s, and Villanova is living around 80 points scored and the high 60s allowed. Put in simple terms, one team scores a lot and gives up quite a bit, the other scores a lot and usually guards better, and that blend tends to push games into the kind of range where everyone keeps glancing at the live total on their phones. For Wisconsin, the total story is already pretty loud. They have gone over in 7 of 10, and that is not padding from random bye games where they beat some overmatched low major by 40. Think about recent results. 96-76 against Marquette, 85-73 against Northwestern, 104-83 against Providence. Those are not flukes, that is a pattern. The ball is moving earlier in the clock, they are comfortable letting their guards attack, and their defense has not yet caught up to this new identity. Their own head coach basically said as much after the 90-60 loss at Nebraska, calling out the way poor shots and slow reactions on defense fed into each other. When a coach is publicly grumbling about his team's defensive edge, it usually means two things. First, he is trying to send a message. Second, you should not assume that a sudden lockdown performance is right around the corner. Villanova fits nicely into the high-scoring picture too, just in a slightly different way. They can play through the post when they want, but their recent wins have featured 3 and sometimes 4 guys getting into double figures, with different players taking turns headlining the box score. They dropped 79 on Pitt, 90 on Penn, 89 on Old Dominion, and 94 on Sacred Heart in that wild game where the threes were flying. When a team shows it can get into the high 80s or low 90s in several different game scripts, it tells you the offense is not just a one-trick pony reliant on one matchup or one whistle. On top of that, Villanova has the kind of depth that lets them keep fresh guards on the floor, so the pace does not have to die just because the starters sit. That matters late in the first half and again in the final 5 minutes when tired legs usually drag totals down. Here's the thing that really ties it together. Neutral court events in an NBA arena like this tend to feel like mini showcases, and if this one stays competitive, there is every chance we get the usual run of late-game fouls, quick threes, and aggressive 2-for-1 attempts that tack on a sneaky extra 5 or 6 points. Wisconsin's willingness to push tempo compared to its old reputation, combined with Villanova's proven ability to score in bursts and space the floor, points more toward a free-flowing game than a slow half-court grind. Throw in the emotional bounce-back factor for Wisconsin after that ugly Nebraska loss, and you have both teams motivated to put something entertaining on film, which often translates into pace and shot-making rather than a defensive clinic. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. Florida Atlantic versus St. Mary's. This one has that classic late-night feel to it, the kind of game where you can almost hear the rims groan every time someone tries to score in Moraga. You have a Florida Atlantic team that wants some rhythm, some freedom, and a little bit of chaos, walking into a building where St. Mary's specializes in turning games into slow, stubborn arguments about every single possession. That basic clash in personality is really what shapes how we should look at the spread here. St. Mary's is perfectly happy living in the half court and letting the clock drip, and they do it as one of the slowest teams in the entire country, sitting right near the bottom of the tempo charts. The key is that they do not trade pace for sloppiness. They use that slower rhythm to squeeze opponents, stay organized, and still get quality looks themselves. The defense is built like a vice, holding teams to roughly mid-60s on the scoreboard on average, while the offense hums along at a strong clip in the high 70s to around 80. At home in that compact, loud gym, where the fans feel like they are standing on the sideline with you, those long, methodical runs start to stack up. A small lead suddenly feels huge, not because of fireworks, but because every St. Mary's possession is a slow, patient test of how long you can defend without blinking. Florida Atlantic, on the other side, brings a very real, very modern scoring profile. They spread you out, shoot it well from deep, and their advanced shooting numbers sit in that you really need to respect this tier, with strong effective field goal percentages and a healthy three-point rate. Their problem, and it is a big one against a team like St. Mary's, is what happens on the other end. Florida Atlantic has been bleeding efficient looks from beyond the arc, giving up one of the highest opponent three-point percentages in Division I, and that is not just a one-game fluke, it is a trend. Now pair that with a St. Mary's group that quietly knocks down threes at an upper-tier rate and shoots free throws at an elite clip, and those little defensive lapses on the perimeter turn into very expensive mistakes. In a faster game, maybe you can shoot your way back. In a slow one, every missed rotation feels like handing over a chunk of the spread. Then there is the physical piece, which might actually be the most important part once you get into the second half. St. Mary's does not just run plays, they run your legs. They screen hard, they hit the glass, and they keep showing you size. Andrew McKeever is inhaling rebounds at a top-tier national rate, sitting in double digits on the glass per night, and when he is not cleaning things up, Paulius Morauskas is bullying matchups and piling up points and boards as their lead scorer. Joshua Dent sets the tone as a steady ball handler who can also pop for big scoring nights, and Mikey Lewis gives them that instant spark when needed. It is a group that does not feel rushed, that knows exactly what kind of game it wants, and that tends to grind opponents down more the longer things go. Florida Atlantic is not soft by any stretch, but this version of the Owls leans more into skill, shooting, and rhythm than brute force in the trenches. When you tie all of that together with a number that is asking whether St. Mary's can stretch some daylight at home against a defense that has real issues guarding the arc, the matchup tilt becomes pretty clear, even without saying the quiet part yet. As our first pick for this matchup, the St. Mary's Gales to cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. The books sitting this total number in the mid-140s tell you they expect a fair bit of offense, at least on paper. It is tempting too. Florida Atlantic just hung a big triple-digit number on Albany and has the kind of offensive profile that screams fireworks, with strong shooting efficiency, a solid offensive rebounding rate, and enough free throws to juice the box score. If you only watch their highlights, you might assume this total is a layup. But those clips do not show what tends to happen when they run into heavy, organized half-court defenses that can stay attached to shooters and still contest at the rim. In those spots, their offense has already looked much more human this season, with choppy stretches and a lot more uncomfortable jumpers. St. Mary's lives exactly in that kind of game. Their pace is not just slow, it is near the bottom of Division I, and it is very intentional. They are happy to run through multiple actions, reverse the ball, and make you hold up defensively for almost a full possession before they settle. On defense, they check almost every box that usually drags a total downward. They guard the three-point line very well, they rebound their own glass at a high level, and they do not send teams on parade to the free throw line. That means fewer second chance points, fewer easy freebies, and not much in the way of runouts after bad shots. For a team like Florida Atlantic that thrives when games get a little messy and open, that feels like trying to play fast in a room with no space. There is also the way St. Mary's tends to manage game flow when things tilt their way. Their coach has a long history of hitting the brakes once his team is in control, and this season fits that same personality. You see possessions shortened only by the shot clock, with deliberate entries to Murauskas or McKeever, kickouts when help comes, and a comfort level with scores that sit in that low-scoring but never really in doubt zone. That kind of script is a headache for an over sitting in the mid-140s, because even if everyone shoots reasonably well, the math just does not explode without more possessions. On the flip side, you always have to respect the idea that Florida Atlantic could catch fire from deep. Their shooting profile says they are capable of heater stretches that blow up a quarter or a half, but those runs still happen inside a structure that St. Mary's is trying to slow, and against this level of discipline, it is much tougher for those hot streaks to turn into a full 40-minute track meet where both teams are racing past the posted number. So the real question under the total is simple, even if the game itself will not be. Does this stay in the Gales' preferred gear long enough for both offenses to feel like they are working uphill most of the night? Given how they have controlled tempo at home, how sturdy their half-court defense has been, and how often Florida Atlantic's weaker perimeter defense could lead to longer, grinding St. Mary's possessions rather than wild back and forths, the overall shape leans towards something more controlled than chaotic on the scoreboard. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. That's all for now, so if you have any other games you would like reviewed, then leave a comment down below with the game you would like analyzed, subscribe to our channel, leave a like on this video, and we'll get to it as soon as we possibly can. We would also love to hear your opinion on the picks presented to you in this video, whether you agree or disagree with them, so leave a comment down below and do let us know.